Every fall, Dean and Mike drove up from Duluth to hunt near the Boundary Waters. The trip was a tradition: cheap beer, deer blinds, and brotherhood. But in 2022, something was different. The cold came earlier that year. By late September, the air snapped like broken bones. Locals in Grand Marais warned them. "Don't go past the iron timberline after dark," one old Ojibwe woman said. "What's out there?" Mike had laughed. She stared at him without blinking. "Something that forgets it was ever human." Dean didn't believe in stories. Mike just wanted venison and silence. So they hiked 10 miles north, past the marked trails, into the oldest part of the forest. It was silent. No birds. No wind. Even the snow seemed afraid to fall there. They set up camp by a frozen creek and lit a fire. That night, they heard something howl. Not a wolf. Not a coyote. Something wrong. It started as a scream. And ended like a man trying to remember how to die. The next morning, their deer traps were untouched. They found something else instead: footprints in the snow. Long, misshapen tracks. 4 toes. No heel. Each print was at least 2 feet long. And they circled the tent. Mike thought it was a prank. Dean wasn't sure anymore. They followed the trail deeper into the woods, thinking maybe it was a bear with a limp. But the tracks stopped at a dead tree that had been clawed down the middle, like something massive had raked its chest open. The bark still bled sap. They returned to camp and found the tent ripped open, as if something had tried to get inside while they were gone. Dean's shotgun was bent. The bullets were gone. That night, Mike couldn't sleep. He kept staring into the dark. Dean dozed off, until Mike shook him awake. "There's something out there," Mike whispered. They listened. And then they saw it. Across the clearing, half hidden by the trees, was something tall. 15 feet at least. Gaunt. Skin stretched over bone. Eyes like lanterns. And antlers curling up like burnt branches. It didn't move. It didn't breathe. Then it smiled. They ran at dawn. But the forest had changed. The landmarks were gone. The trail led them in circles. Dean's compass spun like it was possessed. Mike tried using GPS, but the screen went black and never came back on. For hours they walked, shouted, begged the trees to lead them somewhere. But the only thing that answered was the echo of their own voices, slightly off, like someone was repeating after them, just a second too late. At sunset, Mike started talking to himself. Only he wasn't speaking English. He mumbled in a rasping voice. Words that sounded wet and chewed. His lips turned blue. His skin pale. Dean tried shaking him. But Mike just stared at him with dead eyes and said, "It took my voice. And now it's inside." Dean built a fire. He stayed up all night, watching Mike sit motionless. At 3:12 a.m., Mike stood. And screamed without sound. Dean tackled him, held him down, begged him to fight whatever had gotten in. But then Mike smiled. The same smile as the thing in the woods. And whispered, in a voice deeper than his own, "I remember what meat tastes like." Then he ran into the forest on all fours. Dean never saw him again. Dean wandered alone for 2 more days. No food. No water. Just snow and silence. And the Wendigo, always just out of sight. He saw it once, standing upside down on the underside of a cliff. Its neck cracked backward, eyes burning. He tried shooting it. The bullet froze midair and dropped. He screamed for help. But his voice vanished in the wind. Not even an echo. The Wendigo was stealing his sound now. On the 4th day, Dean found a path made of antlers. Dozens of them, curved and blackened, forming a trail. He followed it, not because he wanted to, but because something inside him was pulling him forward. At the end of the trail was a clearing. Bones. Everywhere. Rib cages. Skulls. Human. Animal. Melted together. And in the middle, a photo. It was his. Dean and Mike. Holding beers. Smiling. But behind them, in the shadow of a tree, stood a third figure. Barely visible. Antlers. Eyes like coals. It had always been there. He screamed. The last thing he remembered was the ground rushing up. He woke up 2 days later in a Grand Marais clinic. Found by hikers. Half frozen. Mumbling in a language no one understood. Dean never went back. Mike was never found. But Dean wasn't the only one to see the Wendigo that year. 3 more campers vanished in the iron timberline. A pilot reported seeing something run across the frozen lake on 2 legs. Twice as tall as a moose. And locals? They still whisper warnings. Don't go into the woods alone. Because once the Wendigo sees you, it remembers. And it's always hungry.